The war room fell silent as the holographic projection flickered to life, displaying the most complex military strategy ever devised by the Galactic Coalition. 47 trillion credits had been spent developing it. 7,000 of the galaxy's most advanced AIs had processed for 3 months straight. The Apex fleet's entire command structure had approved it unanimously. It was also, apparently, completely wrong. Admiral Keshtera of the Crystalline Dominion gestured toward the three-dimensional battlefield simulation. We present to you the final strategy for Operation Eternal Containment. The void swarms have expanded across 12 sectors. Our models indicate a 98.3% probability of victory with minimal losses if we execute this maneuver. The hologram showed an intricate dance of starships, resource allocation nodes, and temporal calculations that would have impressed any species. Fleets moved in synchronized patterns, timed down to the microsecond. Supply lines intersected with surgical precision. The strategy was a masterpiece of mathematical warfare. In the corner of the war room, barely noticed by anyone except the diplomatic aide assigned to monitor her, the human girl remained silent. She had been brought to this meeting as an observer, a representative of her species, invited to witness the might of the Galactic Coalition's military superiority. Humans had joined the coalition only 2 years ago. They were still considered quaint, primitive, well-meaning but ultimately irrelevant in matters of true strategic warfare. The girl, who had introduced herself simply as Eve from Earth, sat with her eyes closed. The strategy accounts for 17,000 variables, continued Admiral Keshtera, her voice tinged with pride. Each vessel has been assigned optimal positioning. Each moment has been calculated to prevent the void swarms from exploiting any weakness. There is no flaw in this design. Eve opened her eyes. There is, she said quietly. The war room erupted in overlapping protests. The Valorians objected on grounds of disrespect. The ethereal collective questioned how a human could possibly understand calculations that existed partially in dimensions their biology couldn't perceive. Even the diplomatic aide looked mortified, ready to apologize profusely for the outburst. Admiral Keshtera raised her primary appendage, silencing the chamber. Despite her crystalline structure's natural inclination toward dismissal, something in the girl's tone had registered. Explain. Eve stood and walked toward the hologram. Her human form looked absurdly fragile next to the towering aliens, yet she moved with absolute confidence. She pointed at the formation center, the precise heart of the strategic arrangement. Here, she said. Your supply lines converge here at minute 43. You've calculated that the void swarms won't reach this point until minute 51. That gives you an 8-minute buffer. Correct, confirmed one of the AIs. The margin of error is built into every calculation. But you're assuming the void swarms behave logically, Eve continued. You're assuming they follow predictable attack patterns because that's what advanced species do. What if they don't? What if they're not trying to win efficiently? What if they're trying to create chaos? She tapped the projection, causing the simulation to shift. The void swarms suddenly changed their approach, abandoning optimal attack vectors and instead moving in seemingly random, destructive patterns. The hologram recalculated in real time, and the coalition's carefully arranged strategy collapsed like a house of cards. Supply lines broke. Fleet formations scattered. The 98.3% victory probability plummeted to 42%. On my world, Eve explained, her voice steady, we have predators that aren't logical. They don't attack for territory or resources. They attack because that's what they do. When you assume your enemy will behave like you, thinking in straight lines, optimizing for efficiency, you become blind to the chaos they can create. The war room had gone completely silent. Your strategy is perfect, Eve concluded, if your enemy plays by your rules. But what if they don't? What if the void swarms are more like the storms that ravage my homeworld than like the orderly military minds that designed this plan? Admiral Keshtera processed this for a moment that stretched like an eternity. Then, with deliberate slowness, she activated her communication array. Suspend Operation Eternal Containment. Initiate new strategic analysis incorporating chaos variable modeling. Pull every tactical simulation that assumes irrational enemy behavior. She turned to Eve, her crystalline sensors focusing with what might have been respect. How did you see this in 10 seconds when our combined intelligence required 3 months? Eve sat back down, her expression thoughtful. Because I come from a world where everything wants to kill you, and nothing cares about your plans. You learn pretty fast that the enemy won't cooperate with your strategy. They'll do whatever it takes to survive, logic be damned. As the war room erupted into frantic recalculation, one thought crystallized across the minds of every advanced species present: they had been so focused on building perfect strategies that they had forgotten the most important variable of all. The unpredictability of a Deathworlder's perspective. Kindly like and subscribe channel. Thank you.